Today, we have a very special episode for you. We interviewed Darby Gibbs, and it was a complete delight. We hope you enjoy it. We really loved getting to chat with her. We talk about dragons and fantasy and story and writing, and it's just delightful. Welcome to Mythic Mirror, the podcast for lovers of myth and fantasy who want to live magical and fulfilling lives. I'm your host, Mary C. Kehoe.
And I'm your co-host, Carolina Carter.
Welcome, LD, to the Mythic Mirror. I'm going to start out with your bio for everyone, and then we'll get into our interview. Darby Gibbs juggles a passion for storytelling with diverse hobbies like tandem bike riding, music, and home remodel. Married for 44 years, Gibbs transitioned from sci-fi to fantasy and romantasy genres, where dragons often take center stage. Her latest venture, the series Fifth Flight, promises more magical adventures. I am reading right now Dragon I Dream, and I really I love the world you've created there with, dragons connected to ancient sentient trees. I'm in. Whatever else happens. Um,
Super.
so, was that your first series that you wrote, or what came first?
My first series was the time travel, but we're going to just set that aside. Okay. And then I guess Dragon I Dream, The Annals of the Dragon Dreamer, that was actually my third fantasy series, or fourth. Might have been my fourth, but it's definitely one of my favorites.
So why dragons?
So this is actually a little story. I'll try to keep it really short. My husband and I got on this binge dragon movies. And we just watched our last one. And I said, I would love to write dragons, a story with dragons. I said, but I don't have any ideas. And he said, well, let's brainstorm. So we brainstormed 3 dragon stories right there on the couch. And I've written all 3 of them. And then I just loved it. It was just like, yeah, this is great. They add such an additional flavor. And because they're not humans, they're this other type of creature, and I just love it. So I love writing about dragons.
Well, we love reading about them, so.
Yeah, that does touch on one of my questions, which was when you begin to write, is it the dragon that comes to you first? Is it more the story? Um, does a character kind of, and it's probably different each time, but is there any sort of way that it starts to come to you?
It's a dialogue. I just hear a character speaking. Sometimes, yes, it's the dragon. Most of the time, it is the human character, but it's often right when they meet the dragon. And so, but I'd say dialogue. Dialogue is the thing that starts me off.
That's very cool.
I love that some people it's the meet cute, the moment between the two main characters in a romance, and I love that for you. It's the meeting between the dragon and the human. That's the important.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a great dichotomy to have these two individuals meet, and they're meeting with different perceptions. It's you, if I'm talking to another human being, our perceptions are pretty much the same, even if we disagree on something. But a dragon's going to have a more predatory, perhaps, perception on things, or a lot of my dragons are very intellectual, so they're looking at it from another angle, and I like that. I like that. I don't know, friction that is created, but not a negative friction necessarily, but it's a friction.
And how has that changed from, correct me if I'm wrong, you've published over 30 books now, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's incredible. Has your writing process changed over the course of from when you wrote that first one to the most recent one?
My first fantasy that I wrote was generated by a blog post. A friend of mine said, could you write a blog post about one of these 5 topics? And one of them was fantasy. And I said, well, I was thinking, oh yeah, I've been writing time travel, but sure, I'm going to write an article about fantasy. Makes perfect sense. So I decided that in order to explain myself, I should actually have a little bit of a magical set of rules, and a little world started. So I was explaining how it's important about those rules help guide the process of the writing. You can't break the rules. They're kind of like your borders.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this whole blog post, and then I realized I couldn't send it to her because I now wanted to write the story that I had just designed to explain this whole point I was trying to make. But it was just a short story, so I just set it aside because I was working on a book at the time. And when it finally came, a moment where I was sort of stuck in one of my books, I thought, I need to get away. How can I get away? Oh, yeah, I've got that short story I could write. So I pulled that up, and 30,000 words later, I realized, okay, not a short story. I'm not even close to the end. And I was having such a wonderful time. It was so easy to write it, to just flow with it. And yeah, I was in fantasy at that point on. So it was just more of I had these set of rules, this idea, and I just wrote from that.
Wow. Mary has talked to me about her similar struggle with writing short stories and how she can't do it. And every short story just turns into a longer story.
Yep. Every time I try, people say, "That's a great first chapter." I'm like, dang it.
I can write short stories. It's just that that wasn't designed to be one, though I thought, at the time, yeah, I know exactly how this is going to end. And then other characters kept moving in and saying stuff, and it just took off on its own. So that was my first fantasy series.
Do stories often have a mind of their own that change from what you originally planned?
I'm not a planner, I'm a discovery writer. So um, I usually have islands, and sometimes, yeah, the islands never show up. I diverge, I go around them. There's another cluster I'd much rather go to, but yeah, it changes, it moves along, and sometimes what I have in mind, I really trust my subconscious, and if it's if it has a character walk in and they say there's a fire, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's roll with it. So yeah, my plans are loose, extremely loose.
And has that trust with your subconscious built with every book? With that, with the first one, were you a little more trepidatious, and now you've created sort of a flow and a rapport with your subconscious?
I wouldn't say I trust it more. I
Yeah.
rely, I certainly rely on it, but I think every book has its own difficulties, its own muddy middles, all those things that are just normal. And I guess I just rely on it. You're going to get me out of this mess, right? And I just keep going forward. But I wouldn't say it's made anything easier. It's just that I'm probably less likely to run into, a wall because I just go, oh, it's okay. Something in there's working on it. We'll get there.
Wow.
I love that. And I love the term discovery writer more than pantser. I'm very similar, and I like the way you described it as having islands that you may or may not reach. I think that is a very good description of how I write as well. And I've tried doing outlining, and I just get so bored and frustrated. And then when I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna write, I'm like, oh, now it's fun again. Why would and then if I try to write something I've plotted out too much, well, then I'm like, well, now I'm just following, it's like paint by numbers, and I no longer am having fun.
Exactly. In fact, I was watching a podcast of an author who I had great respect for, and I loved her work. And she was saying, oh, once I switched over to planning everything and outlining everything. I got so much faster and it was so much easier. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a run. And I wrote, I don't know, 3 or 4 books, tightly planned, and I hated every moment of it. And I think on the fourth one, I just went, enough, enough. I'm halfway through and I'm driving myself crazy, and I just let it flow to its end and get there on its own. And I said, okay, that's a year of exploration that I'm not going to do again. This I prefer to just have my loose strings and I'll get them tied together at the end.
Yeah, outside of having like a, allowing yourself the discovery while writing, I'm curious if you have a strict writing schedule that you have to stick to every day, or is that also sort of like when the moment sparks inside of you?
It's pretty strict.
Is it? Yeah, I would love to know your routine.
I start my day at the computer. I'm gonna get 1,000 words minimum written every day,
Wow.
and sometimes that takes an hour. Sometimes it takes 6, and it all depends on how many times my husband walks into my office and says, "Are you writing? So, can I ask you a question?" Um, so, but each it's like let's see. Do I have it? No, I tossed it over there. I always have a sticky note with a list of things that need to get done, and other ones. It'd be great if you could hit these sometime by the
Mm,
end of the week. And I just that sticky note's just sitting there every day, and I'm just like so overjoyed when I can put a check mark next to something.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm I'm set. I'm organized. My husband knows it. We sometimes have to plan trips, and he's like, "Okay, so I figured out that um, if we encase your computer in one of our big shopping freezer bags and put a couple of ice packs in there, it will be able to sit in the car while we're at the race and it won't get too hot." So
Oh,
he
wow.
knows.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Nice. Yeah.
Were you a writer when you met him, or was this something like has he gotten to know you as a writer as you've been married?
I was a writer in the sense that I was always writing.
Sure.
Um, but no, he didn't think of me as a writer when we married. And probably it took him the first 10 years of our marriage to figure out that maybe he should respect that side of me just a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, so, it, for a lot of people, when you say you write, they kind of view it as like a hobby or they don't like to write. So you probably just like to doodle or something. Um, and so he didn't kind of put that kind of value on it initially. Um, but he figured out, excuse me, that when I was most happy was when I was writing. So he's like, okay, I want my wife happy. I need to make it possible for her to write. So this is so long ago, like 30 years ago. He bought me a dedicated word processor because there was no such thing as computers. Hard to believe, but they weren't there.
Mhm.
So he bought me this dedicated word processor. Didn't tell me he bought it. It was a big surprise, except I handled the bills. And so I'm like, what did he buy from Philips? What is that? And look at the price. I had to go ask him, what did you buy from Philips? And he just looked at me and went, your word processor.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's so sweet. So from then, how long was it before you were publishing?
Let's see. I published my first year publishing was 2011. So I married the man in 81. So you
Wow.
can take it from there.
That's pretty incredible.
Too much math.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely. I love it to hear about those partnerships that are just so supportive and aware of each other and aware of, what sparks each person, with joy and, their life's purpose.
Yeah. And that's what led to him sitting down and saying, let's brainstorm, use some dragon stories. So now he's part of the process. He'll come to my office before I begin writing and he'll say, I have an idea. And I go, okay. We talk about his idea, and I've written probably 5 or 6 books where he has contributed part of the idea, and one of
Wow.
them that he practically plotted the whole novel. And I just went, I'm writing that, and I wrote the book, but it was based off of his storyline.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard a lot of stories of authors with their spouse being business partners and working together. But I think this is the first time I've heard an author say that they've been a creative partner too with that side of it. That's really, really cool.
He doesn't know any of the business side of it. He none of it. But yeah, that part he thinks he can contribute to, and he does. And it's um, doing it alone within a partnership, that wasn't bad. That wasn't a problem because I had the time and everything. But having him be part of it too is extra. It's icing and it's lovely.
You are self-taught. You taught yourself the entire business. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what has that been like? Um, I know that's probably too broad of a question, but I guess what I want to know, was there ever a moment where you almost quit, or has it just been an enjoyment of the process?
Um, so I had written 2 books and I had sent them to publishers and they'd been rejected. And that was long before, Amazon and Kobo and Barnes and Noble and Smashwords and Dr. Digital got into the game as far as for indie writers. And then I just sort of went, okay, and I just set them aside. And then, oh, I don't remember who it was, if it was Kobo, well, it wasn't Kobo at the time, Sony, and or Barnes and Noble brought up that they were now going to allow independent writers to publish. And I just sat there and I went, "Oh, yes. Yes. This is this is it," because I was a teacher and you run the show in your classroom. You run every aspect of it. And I was in a very small school. I taught several grades and I had to create my own curriculum. I mean, I was used to having control over every aspect of the process. And now someone was saying I could have control over every aspect of the process. Yes, I'll take it. I had no idea what I was walking into because it's more than just writing the book and publishing it. It's I was an English teacher, so I could rely on my skills, but when you write something, you don't catch all your errors. It's just not possible. Um, so I was writing, which means you need to get an editor. I was the advisor to the newspaper, and I helped my husband with yearbooks. Oh, I was very good with Photoshop, but I wasn't a cover artist. So there's just all these different levers: advertising, marketing, branding, websites, all, things I knew nothing about. So yeah, I've had to learn every process, and you can't learn it at once. You have to take it in stages. So I wrote and I published, and then I saved enough money where I could go, okay, now I can get an editor and a cover artist. And I went back and I sort of began revamping. I got new covers first. And then I started thinking, okay, editor time. So I got an editor. So you can't do it all at once. It's just not practical financially. It's not practical emotionally, intellectually, the whole deal. So it's been a long process to get where I am right now. Where now I'm about 70% proficient in those things. I mean, I cannot claim that I'm a great marketer or, that I've learned enough. I haven't. But I know a heck of a lot more than I did on that first day I pressed that button and published.
Yeah. Wow, that's really inspiring.
Yeah. Was there any part of the process that, I mean, w- we know, at least those of us, me who is doing it right now, and then Carolina who's getting to hear all about my what I'm learning, um, the struggles of it, and it's hard learning all of these different points of the industry and what you have to do and how to connect with people. Is there a part of that whole process other than the writing that you were surprised that you enjoyed?
The other part is the community, is definitely the community of writers. Uh, the best moment I had was about 4 years ago. I was in a community of writers online, and I had just been on. I was probably my first or second week in this community, and another writer came on, and she mentioned, she's just about to start a fantasy series. She hasn't written fantasy before, but she wants to start. And so we got to talking, and probably another couple weeks went by, and I messaged her and I said, "Would you consider being a beta reader for each other?" And she said, "I wanted to ask you too, and I was afraid." And so we've grown into like a sisterhood now. We turn to each other for everything, for brainstorming, for if we get stuck, and we're each other's alpha readers instead of beta readers. We see the work fresh off their brain, her brain and mine. And we have some other writers that have joined our little community, and there's 5 of us that meet monthly, and I just love that connection. And also, each of us has our different strengths. And I can say to them, "I've never been on Book Funnel. Tell me, someone, what do I do?" And they'll come right, "I've been in there for years. Let me," and they'll walk us through it. And we all learn from the process. So that's writing, and that community, that newfound friends who think like I do and want to achieve what I want to achieve. And we're all there for each other. I love that.
That's very cool.
I love that, especially since one of the tropes or themes that you write about a lot is found family. So it's lovely to hear that you have it in your own life too.
Yes, I think it's essential to us, and I don't think there's really any story that doesn't have a level of found family in it. Um, I'm just more conscious of the fact that I like that trope, and it's part of my writing. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, another thing, I read your website. Another thing, I saw the found family. I also saw that there was a leaning more towards this wholesome romantasy and this wholesome fantasy. And I guess I wanted to ask if that's only become more important to you as the world of fantasy has moved into somewhat darker, spicier realms.
Mm. I think it was the approach that I took from the start. And I don't know that it's become more important, but it's become more important for me to make it known to others that that is what my writing is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd say prior to our um, convention meeting where I met Mary,
Mm-hmm.
um, my, Clean and Wholesome was not on my website.
Oh,
So it,
interesting.
and so I realized, oh, I need to make that understood that that's what I'm doing. Um, and it kind of clicked inside because I'd gotten a few reviews, not very many, but enough that I knew it was happening, where someone said, "There's no romance." And I thought, oh, their idea of romance is this hot and
Mm-hmm.
spicy. And I didn't have that, but I was still calling it romance because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I needed to make that more clear. So on my website, I've slotted it in everywhere I could, so no one's walking in expecting something other than that. So in that sense, yes, it's important. But as far as keeping that in my writing, that's just how I write.
Sure, that makes sense. Mary and I have talked about it a lot, just in the books that we cover, and that the people who would be also interested in reading Mary's book, um, since romantasy has taken such a turn, we've tried to be very clear that there may be romance in the fantasy, but this is if you are in it for the romantasy, you will not find what you seek here. but there definitely is romance, just not
Mm-hmm.
spicy romance.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's an important clarification, that
Yeah.
that there is romance.
Hmm.
It's just, you're just not going to get that spicier.
Yeah. I've told Mary, I said, I want a 10-book series with nothing but yearning. That's all I want. I
The
know.
slowest burn you can
The
get.
slowest burn that it, because I genuinely, it's gotten to a point with me where and I don't mean to speak poorly about any of it. If people enjoy it, that's wonderful. But just for me, if people recommend a book, and if that yearning is met in the first chapter, I'm like, I don't even know I'm reading this book. I'm done with it. I don't want them to get together yet. I don't want them to get together ever. Not really, but
I'm not too good with the fated mate or the insta love. Both of those, I just go, it's so not real. And I want my readers to feel like, yes, this is probable. This is reality. This is the slow process of getting to know each other and not just being attracted. That attraction does not equal love. You know, attraction is the start. It's where you start moving forward, and it may get somewhere and it may not get anywhere, but it can't be instant.
Right. My therapist agrees with you also. Time for our Discworld Delight. Everybody has equal rights. Every last one of them. I was wondering, I feel like you showed a little corner of the book. I think they would have got it anyway, but I do feel like you showed a corner of the book when you were reading.
I mean, the corner of the book is just blue. So
it's a very specific blue.
You saw like that much,
maybe. Also, we need to put the
correct.
Unadulterated Cat on our reading list.
Oh, all right.
By the Sir Terry Pratchett. Some people went further. Tillyman says equal rights when Esk and Granny are on their way to Ankh-Morpork. Escarina Smith is who, says Clockwork Liar, is who she's talking to. Wow, you guys are good. He felt his way to the edge of the slab, lowered his heavy legs to the ground, and, after a pause, out of habit to wheeze a bit, took the first tottering lurch of the newly undead. That's probably an easy one, but who cares? I liked the quote. As you write these characters, as you're discovering them and you're on this journey, has a character ever come to you that's been, and I think this is interesting in the realm of fantasy, but a character that's just been very real and very raw to you and almost is like feels very vulnerable to write?
Yes, it hasn't happened in my fantasy writing, but I was in a novel that I was struggling with, and I wanted to get away from it, different story, and I had this idea, and so it was a contemporary idea. It was 3 women, just a contemporary idea, and I started writing it, and I realized there was things going on in my life at the same time, and as I was writing it, I realized that one of the women in this story was suffering the early stages of Alzheimer's. And it just was like a kick in the heart because my father-in-law was suffering from Alzheimer's, and my mother was showing signs of disorientation. And so I wrote a little bit more, and they both just all of a sudden started faltering super fast. And I thought, I can't write this book. I'm so close to what's going on with these two. I can't face this story. So it's about 18,000 words, and it's just been sitting now for about close to 10 years since both my father-in-law and my mother have died since. I read it now and then, and I love it. And I think one of these days I'm going to come back and I'm going to write this story when it's all percolated more and settled in. But yeah, that was a case where the character showed up. Not with, I didn't realize until one day she was skipping down a road for the 3 friends singing, let's see, what is it? The thing about the buttons run down her back. It's a child's skipping thing.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my goodness, that's a 63-year-old woman skipping down the road. There's a problem here.
Oh, wow.
And more symptoms came up, and that's when I realized, oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Got to step away.
Yeah, I just was listening to a podcast with a woman who wrote, which I really want to read this book. It's Wish I Known Then podcast, but she wrote a book about her sister dying, and it was one that she didn't write. She was like, "There's no way I'd write that story," and I think it took I think a year or so before she even wrote, or it might have been, I think it might have been actually more than that, but before she wrote anything at all, and then this story started to come. But it's yeah, when a story touches on something that is such a deep uh process and a deep pain or sorrow, or it's transformative process, but it's very hard. And yeah, I could see that writing about it while going through something like that is would be a little too intense.
Too much. And they say authors shouldn't turn away from the pain. You write into the pain. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to write into that pain. Let me work on a different pain. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we do mine our experiences, and we mine other people's experiences too. I mean, we listen to what they have to say, and I think writers are looking for all the nuances underneath whatever the person's saying, because we're like, you know, oh, that little piece right there, I could use that little piece. Or maybe you don't even think it; it just shows up later.
Yeah.
But we are gathering it in, whether it's our own experience or someone else's, and yeah, we can deal with pain, but I don't know. Some of them need a lot more time to ferment and to take
Mm-hmm.
and distribute throughout your whole system instead of just your heart.
Yeah, if it's a little too raw, that'd be a lot. Yeah, I actually had while I was working on this book that I'm publishing, we one of my uncles passed away, and I wasn't able to go to the funeral. And after that experience, when I was rereading and doing an edit on the book, this whole scene came of, people had died, and it enriched the whole book because of, now I have the process of, okay, so what do you do? And when we go through the ceremony and the ritual of how this society deals with death, and I think that was partially because I had missed it in real life, so I knew the lack of it, and so then I could see the lack of it in the book. So that would be, one of those moments where life adds another layer of depth to book writing.
Oh, definitely. And we become better writers the more life we have in us. It's just that much more in the back stock of our brain that we can pull from.
Have you found your writing, like, let's see, have you found it easier to add that richness and depth now that you have 30 books and that amount of life experience?
I think so. Yeah, it is. I don't know if it's it's there when you reach for it, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because it's not that it's easier, because you don't know it was missing, but now it's there and you can reach for it. It comes to you, and you add that depth. So I definitely feel my books have improved enormously. In fact, those time travel books have been removed from publication and put aside because
Oh.
they were my first, and I learned the ropes on them.
Mm-hmm.
But my fantasy got um, a better trained writer, and with each series, with each book, I become a better trained writer continuously. Um, and that alpha reader of mine, April, she was at the convention as well, conference. She digs, like, when she goes at my stuff, she just tears into it, and I tear into hers too, and we both are like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a day, and then I will come back and look at it again. But we make each other better, and our writing better, and we hear each other's voices when we're writing. Oh, April will snag on that. I know she will. I need to work on it some more. Uh, I'd rather me do it than have her comment on the side telling me something's wrong here, girl.
Oh, that's
So,
great. What are you working on right now?
My current series is Fifth Flight, and I'm working on the last book of the series, the fifth one. And it's about five women, so found family. They end up in this group. They're supposed to be put before these dragons and hope that they will bond. It's the fifth group they've put in front of the dragons, which is why it's called Fifth Flight. And this time the dragons bond with each of the five women. So I'm on the fifth book, the fifth woman. She's the most ornery of the five. And I've been dying to write this fifth book because I knew she and her very rough character would be a delight to write from. So I'm about 70% through, and I'm hoping to have it done by the end of August, published
Ooh,
by September. That's the plan. So
exciting.
That brings me to one of my questions. If there was a reader who hadn't read any of your work yet, is that the series you would have them start with, or do you have a different series that you would recommend they enter into your world?
oh, it's kind of dependent. Um, my Solstice Dragon series is a very soft, gentle series. I have a reader who is in regular contact with me, and she says it's more fairy tale-ish. There's not really any fairy tale quality to it, but that sense where nothing really bad's gonna happen. It's good. And so a reader who doesn't want the trauma, who doesn't want the really rough stuff, the challenges that come with, I don't know, evil in the world, then
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, oh, you want to be in Solstice Dragon. There's 10 books. There's an 11th on pre-order. You'll be happy for a while.
Yeah.
But if they want more grit, more struggle, well, then I would head them towards Annals of the Dragon Dreamer. And if they want it even grittier, okay, Fifth Flight. They're fighting ogres. People are dying. Go there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it depends on where's their level of um, impact that they want the story to have on them.
Yeah.
So, and if they're a man, I'm going to direct them in another direction. And it's funny, the men, almost all my male readers came through on one particular series, but then they go to the others,
Oh, fun.
and because of the dragons, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, dragons, that's everybody's gateway
Yeah, it's
into
true.
fantasy, I feel. We all love
Yeah,
dragons.
Yeah.
right.
So, one of the things we love to talk about on this podcast is bringing wonder and magic and joy into our everyday lives, especially things that we love from fantasy. Is there anything you have that either from your own books or just a feeling that you get from writing or from fantasy as a genre that you kind of anchor in your life some way?
I think it's viewpoint. There's those little moments, when you step outside and out of the corner of your eye you see something leap off of a little grass, and your mind almost goes fairy, but it's a grasshopper or whatever it is. But there's still this certain joy in that moment, and I even tell myself, yeah, it just looks like a grasshopper. It's not.
Mhm.
But I think it is perspective, because different things can happen in your life, and you can view them as magical and amazing. I have a cuckoo clock. I turned it off because I've had other people say that ticking in the background is just not. And of course, when it goes off, it cuckoos pretty loud. Um, but it was given to me by my dad. It was my grandfather, so it's an old cuckoo clock. And I've had it repaired more than once, and it stopped working about, oh gosh, 10 years ago. And I was saving up my money to go get it repaired again to see what the problem was. But it was still hanging on my wall. And then we moved to this new house, and we decided where it was going to hang in my office. I said, I know it's not going to be ticking, but I still want it hanging in my office. And so we put it in the car. And as we drove for 2 hours to get to our new house. And the last 2 miles to our house is kind of a Well, you feel like you're in the boonies. You're really not, but it feels like it. And the road is just you're bumping, your car's going like this. The whole time my little cuckoo clock in the back behind us is going ting, 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 ting the whole way. And I'm like cringing what this poor thing is going through. It's already not working. And now it's tinging and banging because of the insides are there's a spring and all sorts of things in there. We get to the house, put it safely on the wall, and it's hanging there for a week. And I'm like, what if it worked? What if it worked? It's not going to hurt it if I try. So I wound it and I hit the pendulum, and it's been ticking ever since.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And I'm like, magic. All it took was a drive down 2 miles of rickety roads, and whatever was wrong with it got banged right out of it.
That's
Nice.
amazing.
Country roads are
Magic.
magical. Yeah.
They are. Absolutely.
Well, I live on a dirt road, so that I'll think about that now every time I'm having to go slow around yet another new pothole that could swallow you whole.
This is the road of potholes. It's just there's no getting around them. You just go as slow as you can. My dresser, the drawers kept popping out. I had to
Oh
keep
my
reaching
gosh.
back and pushing them in.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we like to end our episodes with a spark of the week. So this is something that has just sparked joy in your life this week. So, Carolina, do you have a spark of the week?
I'm going to be very honest. This is it for me this week. LD, it was so lovely to get to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Mary's told me so much about you, and it's so gracious of you to come on our podcast and talk with us. And you've just been an absolute delight to speak with. And I've started one of your books, and I love finding an author that already has 30 books published because I have so much joy ahead of me, and I'm very excited. So thank you.
I'm just appreciate that you asked, and it's a lovely experience, and you two are so gracious, so sweet. Definitely, meeting Mary was so fortunate. I was at the wrong table, and they moved me, and so I met Mary on the second day, and she was sitting next to me, and it was just nice to have someone to welcome me and to talk to. So to again join you and talk to you again this way, it's been great. I don't know, my spark. Um, my spark was probably today. I dug out our old mic and Focusrite system, and my husband was going to help me set it up because he's always been the sound man. And he was gone this morning, so I did it all myself, and I got it working, and I tested it, and it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did it all by myself. I didn't need the sound man.
That's great.
That was my spark.
That is such a good feeling.
Yeah, especially with technology. There's so many things that just one little thing, you have it all working and then one thing's off. So that is just a great sense, especially when it's like, yeah, I didn't need anyone.
Otherwise, we were going to be using these.
Yeah. It would have been fine. It would have all been fine, but still a great victory.
Let's see. My spark is definitely right now getting to talk with you. This has been really fun. And then also, just yesterday, I reconnected with someone I went to college with, and she is making jewelry. And she is, I'm going to be having 2 of her bracelets as prizes for my book launch party. And it's just, I love those moments like we were talking about with Found Family, where it's just getting to reconnect with someone and then see that they're doing something amazing and being able to join forces to kind of promote each other is a really fun feeling.
Definitely.
That's really
Found
cool.
family. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And as always, we are grateful to be spiraling through the universe with all of you. It's not always easy, but no good story ever is.